The True Crime Society podcast contains adult themes and violence and is not intended for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
If you'd like to skip the intro, please refer to the timestamp listed in the episode description. Thank you.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the True Crime Society podcast with Stephanie and Olivia. It is June 20th right now, 2024, 7:43 p.m. And I don't even know where to start. We've as of an hour or a couple hours ago, we've officially had our Death After Dark Instagram suspended because we're pretty sure it got hacked, and now the hacker has created a verified fake version of her profile
with an extra underscore. So it's the same name, just with an extra underscore. So you wouldn't even be able to tell if you were just looking at it, quickly.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, they have a bunch of bot followers and they're just impersonating us. So hopefully by the time this episode comes out, it'll all be sorted. But
I feel like we just spoke about it in Patreon too, but a reminder for everyone, this is a good reminder, go into your accounts for everything, maybe update your passwords, put two-factor verification on if it's an option, do whatever you can, lock your accounts down because these people are creeps.
Yeah, it's messed up. One thing I didn't talk about on Patreon, so it won't be repetitive for people on Patreon, is so we then were paranoid about our TCS Instagram getting hacked. So we were like, all right, let's just pay for the meta verification because it gives you more security, essentially. So I go to do it, and we talked about, it says like you can't do it because the name on your profile has to match the name on your driver's license. So obviously True Crime Society is not the name on my driver's license. So I did some research, and other people were like, yeah, if you have like a business account or something like that, you're essentially fucked, and you have to do it the old-fashioned way and just like prove that you're of public interest.
The business,
so I did that. But before I got to the part where it's like you need to use like your legal name, this is the bullshit that fucking Meta does, is like you click it, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do it, you subscribe, it immediately takes your money out, and it's $14.99 a month, which sure is, I mean, I feel like, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, not that much money, but for what it is, $14.99 a month to be verified on Meta is fucking ridiculous. Like, excuse me.
And even like the whole verification process is a farce because like these people can get verified and they're clearly scammers from I don't even know where, but it's just ridiculous. It's just another money-making way.
So they immediately take out the money, and then it says like, oh, well, if we can't verify you, we'll refund you. And it's like, how long is that going to take? And of course, right now, not to get into like my personal situation, I'm like so low on money from all this house stuff, and I don't get paid until tomorrow. And I'm like, you motherfuckers, I want that $14 back, Meta. But, they'll get around to it when they get around to it after pulling the scam of paying to be verified. Such bullshit. But I did apply for us to be verified the old-fashioned way by proving we're of public interest, but they're like, oh, it could take up to 30 days to do that.
I find it so interesting too that like 30 days for that, but when I put in the appeal for the Instagram account, they're like, we'll get back to you in one day, and I'm like, were you really though?
Yeah, because a robot's gonna look at it and be like, oh, you got suspended by XYZ, because who knows what the hacker actually did to our account. So we're just thankful it wasn't our TCS account. That would be devastating. So hackers, please wait 30 days so we can be verified before you try to fuck with that account.
We do also, which we haven't plugged for a while, we do also have a backup account. It's just True Crime Society Backup. So make sure you go and follow that, because literally there was no warning for this today, and it was like your account's suspended. Like there's no emails, there's no logins, there's nothing. It's just, it popped up when I was on Instagram, your account's been suspended. That's it. That's like, they're like, too bad, so sad. So if that ever, God forbid, happened to True Crime Society, it would be nervous breakdown time. But True Crime Society Backup is our other account. Make sure you follow it. Just at least we'll have a way to tell you what's happening then if that ever does happen. It just frustrates me, and I know I've spoken about it too, because there's no accountability. They're more than happy to take your money, more than happy to take your ad revenue. But when you actually need something, like legitimately
you can't even
help,
talk to a person.
You can't talk to anyone. It's
and
really,
I've seen
really
people
bad.
with accounts way bigger than ours get hacked. And hackers, I know we're all like, oh, I'm not going to fall for it. Like, I'm pretty savvy. They've gotten like crazy lately. I hear things from other accounts.
We didn't even do anything.
We had no idea. But I've seen accounts like way bigger than ours, like with almost like millions of followers. Like, I think it's like something cat lady. She got hers hacked really bad in some like big elaborate scam to get onto her account. And even her, with an account as big as hers is, had the hardest time like getting in touch with anyone from Meta, getting anyone to help her. And it took a while, and she had to like reach out to all of her followers because she could still like post on her account somehow, but she couldn't access it. So she like made a backup or whatever, and somehow was just like, if anybody works for Meta, can you please help me? And I think that's how she got in touch with them. So it's just so impossible. Which is sad because they basically run the social media world.
Yeah.
And everyone has social media, so.
Anyway, that's how, at least, and because there was actually, I was saying before too, like, we don't post a whole amount on that account. We had like 13,500 followers, but we'd post like celebrity deaths. So today I posted Donald Sutherland, and I was like, wow, that's sad. I really liked him in the Hunger Games. And then bang, that was it. That went out with a bang.
Donald's cursing us.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that ever happens to TCS, I think I would honestly just pass away or like have a heart attack. I can't even imagine. Because even when we didn't even like lose our Facebook group, but when we had a lot of problems with our Facebook group and we were at risk of losing it because we kept getting hammered by Facebook, getting
for
flagged
Jeffrey
for
Dahmer
dumbest
memes.
shit.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer memes. Yeah.
And then we tried to switch it to a different platform, and I like honestly never really returned to Facebook after that because it was such like a devastating loss for me, because especially like, I mean, not everyone has worked really hard at TCS. Like me and Olivia, basically, like we started that. We've been there from the beginning, and like we've all worked so hard to build that up. And then just losing that was such like a gut punch that I just never really went back to Facebook after that. So that's why I do a lot more on Instagram now, because it really was very disheartening. So,
but then now, and even like on Instagram, I remember like we had a few strikes for a while. One was when I posted a mugshot of someone. They were like, "This is inappropriate content," like, and it was just a photo of their face, but it was a criminal.
Inciting violence is what it kept saying.
But and I know like some people might be listening to this, going, "Guys, it's just social media. It's Facebook. It's Instagram. Get over it," which I absolutely get. But then it's also a community, and it's also something that we have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of hours on over the years.
We've been doing this since 2015, like the start, right? Or 2017?
17 after Libby and Abby. It's 2017.
Yeah,
so
still a long time.
Yeah, a really long time. And it's just frustrating more than anything. And like, it's shocking. Like when that happened today, I'm like, what the fuck? Like there's no warning, no accountability. Anyway, I know there's worse things happening in the world, but it still
fucking sucks, okay?
Yeah, and the amount of messages we get from people saying, you know, I really feel like you guys are my community, you're my people, you're my friends. Like I feel like a lot of people would be sad if something ever happened to True Crime Society, you know, for a lot of reasons. So, you know, trying to avoid that, obviously.
Yeah. Back to the relevant topics that we normally talk about. It's so hot in New York. The real feel today, we're in like a heat wave, is 100 degrees, which I think I looked, it was like 37 degrees Celsius for my Celsius peeps. I saw someone the other day be like, I really like when you guys give all the conversions so I understand. So I'll try to be better about that. But it's so hot. I literally had to go get something out of my car at work, and just walking from the front door to the car and with the pavement, I was drenched in sweat. It's so disgusting here.
And it's so cold here. We had our first ice the other day. Like there was ice on the car. And I've said before, we're really unprepared here for the cold. Like heat, everyone's got air conditioning or at least fans, whereas hardly anyone has proper heating, because like there's maybe only, I don't know, I'm just estimating, like 10 days a year where it gets that cold, but it was freezing. So I ordered another heater for the house. It should arrive on Monday. I'm still not prepared after all these years of being alive.
Yeah, it's just crazy times.
So yeah, so other than all this Meta bullshit, there's not too much happening. I've got book club tonight, which I'm excited about. It's been like 6 weeks since my last one, because when it's your turn to host, you can pick when in the month you want it. So sometimes there's a short gap, sometimes there's a long gap. So I am excited for this one. The book was Hello Beautiful, which I do recommend if anyone is looking for a read. It's not crime related as such, but if you're looking for a good general read, Anne Napolitano is the author. It was very long and it was slow to start, but it's about these 4 sisters and essentially spans like a 40-year period of their lives. So it was interesting. If you're looking for a read, I would probably rate it about a 7.
Really nothing. I mean, I've had like such a crazy day. I had some work drama, not with me really, but just that I was like invested in. So that was crazy. Then all the Meta stuff, and I do have one silly thing I can talk about, or maybe like a product rec, not an affiliate or anything. I think I've mentioned where we moved to. There's a lot of swampland around us, and Mike was off of work yesterday, so he was home when I got home from work, and we were like, oh, let's like sit outside for a little since it was finally cooler out because it was dark. There are so many bugs here, it's insane. And I got this thing. It's called a Dynatrap, and it's like a UV light, and then has like a fan that sucks the bugs down into the bottom so they get trapped. So we turned that on, and there's so many bugs. I'm like shocked. We left it on overnight. Like, you're supposed to just leave it on. I'm shocked at the amount of bugs that this thing sucked in. There is like an inch thick of bugs just from one night that have gotten sucked into this thing.
It's crazy. So after you posted, when we talked about the mayflies the other week, all these people have been sending mayfly videos in.
Oh my God, yeah. They're gone. This is just like regular mosquitoes, gnats, moths type things. And I don't know what it is. I guess because I live essentially like right by a swamp, and this house is probably, no one's lived in this house for a couple of years before we moved into it. I don't know if that factors into it, but it was insane. It's disgusting. So if you have a lot of bugs, I recommend a Dynatrap. It's pretty cool. Seems to be helping. I do feel a little bad for the bugs, but it is what it is. If you guys just stayed away from me, it'd be fine.
Survival of the fittest in terms of bugs.
Yeah. So Mike last night was like, what if some of them are mothers? I was like, shut the fuck up. So yeah, I mean, that's all I have to talk about. Nothing else exciting. And again, just a reminder, make sure that you're still subscribed on Apple Podcasts, because they're another shit company that runs the world that doesn't care about us.
Oh, it's all falling down.
It really is. It seems crazy. Full moon tonight for you, tomorrow for me. Hopefully after that we'll be in the clear for a bit.
Fingers crossed it'll settle down. So before we get into the episode, this message is sponsored by Greenlight. As your kids get older, some things about parenting get easier. Sometimes I can now say, guys, you need to help me. You need to do the dishwasher. You need to clean your own room, get the vacuum out. Some of them are easier, but others don't often get easier. And sometimes that's having a conversation about money with your kids. The fact is, kids won't really know how to manage their money until they're actually in charge of it, which is so important. And that's where Greenlight can help. So Greenlight is a debit card and a money app made for families. Parents can send money to their kids and keep an eye on their kids' spending and saving, while kids and teens build money confidence and lifelong financial literacy skills.
With the Greenlight app, kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely thanks to games that teach money skills in a fun, accessible way. The Greenlight app also includes a chores feature where you can set up one-time or reoccurring chores customized to your family's needs and reward kids with allowance for a job well done. I remember doing chores as a kid, and I think this is such a cool way to keep kids motivated to just help around the house in general. Like, what's going to motivate them more than literally getting instant money deposited into their account? And I think just having it on an app is way more fun and makes them feel more like adults. Millions of parents and kids are learning about money on Greenlight. It's the easy, convenient way for parents to raise financially smart kids and families to navigate life together.
Sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/TCS. That's greenlight.com/TCS to try Greenlight for free. greenlight.com/TCS.
All right, so let's get into it after all of our bitching. So today we are going to talk about some siblings who killed their other sibling, which at first I thought, like, when I read the stories, I'm like, that's so weird. Like, why would you murder your sibling? But then when you really think about it, I guess there could be a lot of reasons, like jealousy, things like that. But I don't know. I feel like it's weird when they're like adults. Maybe because I like my sibling. Hey, sis, if you're listening.
When we posted that on Instagram that we were going to do this, someone's like, oh wow, I'm so interested. I hope this becomes like Mums Who Murder and Deadly Dads, like, because I called it Sinister Siblings. And there are always a ton of these cases. I've just never really considered covering it before, but
yeah, I mean, I guess siblings fight, like, if you really think about it. So even though it seems weird, I guess if you really, really think about it, maybe it's not that weird.
Well, how many people are estranged from their families, and every family has their deep dark secrets, and sometimes it turns deadly, I guess.
Yeah, so we'll get into a few of those today. The first we're going to talk about is Angela Gosser, this happened in May 2024. She is 50 years old, and she killed her husband Larry, who is 73, so pretty big age gap. And her sister, Jennifer Wilson, who is 57 in Kentucky. She also attempted to kill her brother, Darryl, who is 58. So she killed one sibling, attempted to kill the other. But Darryl survived the shooting, and he turned the gun on Angela and actually killed her. So some background, Larry, the husband, and Angela, they'd been married for a long time, but their relationship seemed pretty turbulent. Angela filed for divorce from Larry in 2009. And in December 2009, Larry's attorney filed a motion for him to have emergency custody of the couple's 14-year-old son, Brendan, alleging that Angela had hosted a drinking party with minors present. Their son said on another occasion Angela kept slumping over the steering wheel while driving, maybe insinuating that she was drinking and driving, or just that was under the influence maybe, or just something weird going on. Larry said in an affidavit he believed Angela's mental status was deteriorating as it has in the past. A quote is, Angela suffers from clinically diagnosed mental disorders and had been hospitalized for suicidal thoughts and attempts. So the document didn't really go into detail about what medical conditions she had, but it did say that she was prescribed medication for her conditions, but had failed to take them all the time. So she wasn't properly medicating herself or following the directions. How do we call them? Following the directions of your medication. So in the middle of the divorce proceedings, the couple's daughter, Amanda, sought a protection order against Angela. Amanda, she was born in 1991 when Angela was 17 and Larry was 39. So that's already like 17, 39 is crazy.
And if she was born, like, so that means that Angela was probably maybe close to 16 when she got pregnant. So, yeah, very young, and for it to be with a nearly 40-year-old.
Yeah. So Amanda, the daughter, said that her mother had been threatening her amid the ongoing divorce and allegedly said that if her daughter tells the things her mom has done, she'll pay, according to a copy of the domestic violence petition. Okay, so this is another quote from the petition from Amanda. So it says, quote, she has sent texts before calling me a bitch and saying she would stomp my ass. So Amanda said that she was afraid to be home at night and feared that her mother might attack her after all those threats. So a judge granted temporary sole custody to Larry, but the couple later reconciled and dropped the divorce in 2010.
In terms of social media for Larry and Angela, it's up still online. They do have one joint account, Larry N, like the letter N, Angie Gosser, and then Angela's got another one, Angela Wilson Gosser, and her bio says, mother, housewife, grandmother, farmed, logged, ran a sawmill, ran a bulldozer, caregiver. So anyway, I've linked their Instagrams on the their Facebooks and social media on the blog if you want to check it out, but they do have a lot of photos of themselves up there and their families if you want to kind of check out the life they had.
So on May 3rd, 2024, Larry was discovered at 6:30 p.m. lying beside the road approximately 200 feet from his residence, and police said he died from what appeared to be a gunshot wound. And Brendan, the couple's son, was the one to find his father. An hour later, police were called to attend a shooting. And this info is from the press release about it from the Kentucky State Police. It says, on May 3rd, approximately 7 p.m., KSP Post 15 received a call from Pulaski County 911 requesting assistance locating a Ford F-150 believed to be operated by Angela Gosser, age 56, of Russell Springs. Troopers responded to attempt to locate the vehicle. At approximately 7:24 p.m., Russell County 911 contacted KSP and requested investigative assistance with a deadly shooting incident that had occurred at a residence on South KY 619. The preliminary investigation revealed that Angela Gosser had arrived at the residence belonging to her brother, Darryl Wilson, age 58. Once at the residence, Miss Gosser armed herself with a firearm and forced entry into the residence. Upon Miss Gosser entering the residence, there was an apparent exchange of gunfire between the two, with both individuals receiving gunshot wounds. Mr. Wilson was transported to the University of Kentucky Hospital for treatment of life-threatening injuries. Miss Gosser's injuries were fatal, and she was pronounced deceased by the coroner. While at the scene, KSP received a request for a welfare check on Angela Gosser's sister, Jennifer Wilson, age 57. Family members of Miss Wilson reported they had been unable to make contact with her, causing them to become concerned for her safety. Troopers responded to Hammond Road in Russell County and located a Toyota Camry partially off the roadway when they arrived on Hammond Road. Upon contact with the vehicle, a lone occupant, Jennifer Wilson, was located in the driver's seat with apparent fatal gunshot wounds to the head. The preliminary investigation revealed that before the incident at her brother's, Miss Gosser encountered Miss Wilson on Hammond Road. Miss Gosser armed herself with a firearm and fired multiple rounds into the passenger area of the vehicle, fatally striking Miss Wilson. Miss Wilson was pronounced deceased by the coroner. So pretty crazy. She just seems to have
it's totally snapped.
Really gone after it. Like she went and killed her brother, her sister, and husband, where it's like, I wonder what her motive was for the brother and sister,
because we did follow this one in our Facebook group as well, and I haven't, I guess we can all speculate as to what the motive was, but I haven't seen anything confirmed in terms of it being financial or, the usual reasons. We just do not know what the motive is.
Yeah, so the motive isn't clear. Pulaski County Sheriff Bobby Jones said, right now there is an open investigation. We're still working with detectives and looking for leads. They're back there working to find the end of it.
Yeah, so it did only happen last month, so I guess we're nearly probably at around 6 weeks or something since it happened, but there's been kind of radio silence since. I believe the daughter was quite active on Facebook at the time. I don't even know if she was like an admin in some type of crime group or something like that, so she was posting a lot about it when it happened, but yeah, no confirmation about why Angela carried out this crime.
I wonder if they took Larry's side in something, or
maybe Larry was telling her to get out or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel very nosy about it, but there's nothing to see yet.
We'll keep you updated if anything does come out. But I also feel like, too, in a lot of cases, once there is a crime like this, especially in a murder-suicide, which I know this wasn't essentially because the brother killed Angela, but in a crime like this, there isn't any follow-up because it's kind of dirty laundry, mental health issues that are that's why it happened. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't hear anything else.
Yeah. I wonder if he didn't kill her, if she would have killed herself, if that was the goal, or if she was just going to go on the run or what. So this is another one that happened recently. So again, there's not a ton of information or really resolution yet, but it's just so crazy that we wanted to talk about it.
We had a message on Instagram too. Sorry, just to interrupt. We had a message on Instagram and we said we're going to cover this one from someone saying, I'm so interested in this, and just no one is covering it. It's actually an unbelievably heinous, horrific crime that just is kind of, I feel like, flying under the radar, maybe just because of how horrific it is.
It is weird because, I don't know, I mean, I've been busy lately, but I feel like a lot of these, it's just, we've said in the past, it's interesting which cases seem to be more so picked up by the media and which ones aren't for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because they're too taboo, too crazy, or too much dirty laundry personal stuff. Just weird which ones seem to go viral and that the news decides to cover.
Yeah.
So on May 23rd, 2024, police in Lakeville, Minnesota responded to a 911 call from a female around 11 p.m. Judy Ball said that she thought her daughter, Bethany Israel, 30, had been killed inside the property. Bethany had gone to the house in Lakeville, Minnesota earlier that night around 6 p.m. to have dinner with her brother, Jack Joseph Ball, who was 23. After Bethany didn't contact her husband or family for the rest of the night, they became concerned. The mother of Jack and Bethany drove to Jack's house. She said when she arrived, he just tore out of the house. Judy went into the home and saw a large amount of blood, and she decided to call 911. After police arrived, they went into the home and they saw the large pool of blood on the kitchen floor and on the sink cabinets. They also saw a bloody saw, a hatchet, and many large bloody knives. They found a knife on the living room floor near the staircase as well. So after continuing their search, officers found several body parts believed to belong to Bethany.
Flowers, a cross, and a message of prayer outside this Lakeville home, where Bethany Israel, shown here with her husband Josh, was killed.
I would never imagine anything like this happening here.
Court documents say the 30-year-old went to have dinner here Thursday with her brother, Jack Ball. When family members did not hear from her, Israel's mother told police she drove to the home, saw Ball quickly leaving, and called 911 when she found blood inside. Cindy Bond lives across the street.
My husband heard a female, he thought it was a female scream, and then Probably a minute thereafter, I heard shouting and the car peel out.
Prosecutors say arriving officers found multiple weapons and what appeared to be body parts. Officers found Ball in Rosemount after getting a 911 call about a man seen on a Ring camera on the front step of a home there. Police say he appeared to have a self-inflicted knife wound to his throat. Family members later told police Israel was pregnant with her first child.
It's been difficult being right across from this. It's really a nice neighborhood. We rarely have any issues. That's a sad thing.
Their mother said that she believed Jack may have fled to a cemetery in Rosemont because they had relatives buried there. A lot of this is pointing to them knowing Jack had issues.
Yeah.
Like that they are immediately like, where is she? Went to the house. And I mean, who's going to be like, oh, he probably went to the cemetery because we have relatives buried there. That's also kind of strange. So police received a 911 call from a residence in that area, and the caller said they saw a male on their Ring doorbell camera placing what appeared to be a body part on their front step. Could you imagine being those people? Holy shit.
Like, yeah. I just imagine, like, you look and you see if it's a postman or Amazon or whatever, and it's
like, oh, my package is here.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
I would be so afraid.
Me too.
Whether I was home, especially one, if I was home, but even if I wasn't home, like... how do you just feel safe and okay and not violated in your home again? So police went to that residence and found that body part that was left there. Jack's car was parked nearby and police searched the area, and he was found near a shed in the backyard of a home. He was covered in blood on his head, shirt, arms, legs, and pants. He also had a self-inflicted knife wound across his throat. Police said Jack was able to communicate with them and accurately told them the date, time, and who the current president was, so he wasn't totally out of it insane, I guess. Police kept searching the area and they came across more of Bethany's body parts. It was discovered by authorities that Bethany was pregnant with her first child, which is just so horrible.
I believe she was 18 or 19 weeks pregnant with the baby.
The investigation uncovered journals and writings by Jack in which he stated that he was angry about his sister's pregnancy and that she was no longer innocent, which makes me automatically like want to turn and hate this guy, even though clearly he's like mentally unwell, but it's like, fuck off. Autopsies were conducted on Bethany and her baby. Bethany's death was ruled a homicide and that she died as a result of complex homicidal violence. The Dakota County Attorney Kathy Keena said the allegations in this case are deeply disturbing and horrific. Words can't describe what our law enforcement partners encountered during the investigation. It's just sick. He knew she was pregnant. There could have been a chance maybe he didn't know, and
it's so interesting too to me because she was married, like she was older. She, like, her and her husband had been married for a few years. Like, it's not like this should have been an unexpected development. You know, a lot of married people have children. It's not like she was, do you know what I mean?
She's no longer innocent anymore.
Yeah, I'm so intrigued. She's married. As to why it seems like maybe he had her on kind of a pedestal and, you know, idolized this older sister. I don't know. I hope we find out more about his rationale behind doing this. But it's, yeah, as we mentioned, very new. Not much has come out yet in terms of the background.
It's just strange. I mean, I guess it's pretty clearly mental illness in some sense, but it's also like incel behavior almost, but
yeah,
towards your sister.
Because he couldn't control her anymore. Yeah. Couldn't control her anymore.
I don't know. Just leaves me with a lot of questions. So the Ball family had its fair share of tragedy. On top of this, Mark, Judy's husband and father of the children, died in 2020 from cancer, and thought that Mark and Judy lost a child previously, a son named Steven. So Jack is currently facing 2 counts of second-degree murder and was due in court again on June 10th, but we haven't seen any updates or anything since.
Yeah, one of our members even logged on to like the court system and been no updates. So I don't know if there's been a delay, maybe due to like a mental health competency thing, but anyway, he was due in court about 10 days ago and he hasn't appeared as far as we know.
Yeah, but like you were saying, like this is such an insane story, but I think the news doesn't want to touch it because it's pretty messed up.
Hardcore.
Like, not that all murder isn't messed up, but just like killing and dismembering your pregnant sister and the whole innocence thing. I'm sure the news is like, we're not touching that.
Yeah,
but
and even
it's crazy.
like we don't know, like what did they say her cause of death was? Homicidal violence. So we don't actually know. Like it sounds like if there was a hatchet, her death would have been probably not super quick and very, like, it just sounds horrendous and a horrendous
I
way to die.
wonder, not that it really makes a difference, but just out of my own thinking, like, was there an argument and then he killed her, or was he planning on killing her the whole time? Like the whole dinner was set up and he knew he was going to kill her in that moment, or did something happen to make him snap and then do it? Or, I mean, I feel like it had to have been something he was at least thinking about.
There is a GoFundMe for the family. It says, in loving memory of Bethany Israel. The target was $5,000 and they've raised $46,000. And I'll just read a little bit. It says, Bethany was not only a cherished wife, daughter, and sister and an expectant mother, but also a beloved figure in the volleyball community. Bethany's radiant spirit and unwavering kindness touched the lives of all who had the privilege of knowing her. Her love for life, her family, and the friendships she nurtured are the legacies she leaves behind. As a beacon of warmth and generosity, Bethany's absence leaves a void that cannot be filled. So, just horrible. That poor husband too lost his whole entire family in an instant.
Yeah, and it's just sick.
So yeah, there is a probable cause document online if you want to read the whole thing, but we have summarized it in this episode. I think it's only 3 or 4 pages long. There's not a huge amount of information yet, but once more does come out, we will let you know. So the first 2 are US cases. The next case we're going to discuss is one from the UK, from Scotland. It's about the murder of Amber Gibson. So Amber Gibson and her brother Connor had a bit of a rough start to life. Their biological father, Peter, sexually assaulted 2 young boys and assaulted and raped a woman. And those crimes were committed between 2001 and 2008. So the siblings were placed in the foster care system when they were 5 and 3, and they were placed to live with the Niven family in Scotland. Connor said at the time, "We are safe now." So Amber was described as the most giving, loving, supportive, and admirable young girl. They said she had hints of great promise, and even though she'd had immense suffering and a really, horrible start to life, she still had an amazing outlook on life and loved art and singing. So the Niven family were given permanent care of Connor and Amber a few years later, but there were some concerns raised about their behaviour. Craig Niven, who was the foster father, said he wouldn't leave them alone together as they were not a good mix. When Amber was 14, which was around 9 years after she arrived in the Niven home, the foster care arrangement broke down and she was moved into a children's care unit. I believe that Connor was around 16 by this point and he remained with the Nivens until he turned 18. So it sounds like there was some friction between the family, some behavioural issues with Amber, so she was basically asked to leave and was put into another care facility, which is horrible because 14 is such a tough time anyway. And I just can't even imagine her being in a, general care setting without the love of the family. Yeah.
Very traumatic for her to go through something like that.
So when Amber was around 16, which was 2 years later, she was still under the care of social services and she was raped in June of 2021. She was either asleep or unconscious at the time. And the perpetrator was a 20-year-old named Jamie Stars. Jamie was on bail at the time for another sex attack. So this ended up being understandably a very tough time for Amber, but Connor was said to be the constant in her life. By this point, Connor was 18 and he'd left the Nivens, or had been asked to leave, and was living in a hostel for homeless youth. So this all happened in November 2021. There's a lot of CCTV footage in this case, which is on the blog if you want to check it out. But there's CCTV of Connor and Amber walking on the street together. That night, Amber would send a friend a selfie with the caption, "My big bro," and she would never be seen alive again. Connor would end up returning to the hostel that night in a disheveled state shortly before midnight. He told a project worker at the hostel that he and Amber had argued. There is CCTV of Connor from that night showing him slumped against a metal barrier. He looks exhausted. He looks like kind of he's resting up against the barrier. He just needs to take a few minutes before he moves on. There's CCTV later which shows him heading towards wheelie bins. What do you call them? The dumpsters? Is that what you call them? I don't know. Like the bins that you put out. Might be different for you guys. But basically we have them for our household rubbish.
Dumpsters or like the plastic ones?
Well, I don't know, it might be different for you. But here we call them wheelie bins here too. So I'm assuming it's like a British thing. But basically it's on wheels and here you move it out to the front of your house on garbage night. So it's where you put like your trash
still call
bags.
It like a garbage bin or something.
Anyway, so it's basically like a big bin that is outside and it's collected by a garbage team.
Yeah.
So the CCTV shows him heading towards wheelie bins outside the building, carrying another plastic bin, and that bin was empty when he came back, and his bloodstained shorts and t-shirt were later found by police in the wheelie bins. So there is CCTV footage of him doing all of this. So Amber's body was found on November 28th, 2021. It was said that her underwear was forcibly ripped and that she had blunt force trauma to her head and body. So this story is horrendous enough, but then what happened to Amber next is just unbelievable. Her body was found by a man called Stephen Corrigan, who was 14.5. Instead of contacting police about finding a body, Stephen touched Amber's genitals. So she was deceased at this point, and this creep is doing this to her. A court would later hear that Stephen Corrigan's DNA was widespread on Amber's body, spanning 39 areas, including her breasts and pubic areas, with the forensic biologist estimating that it came from direct contact. So Stephen Corrigan claimed he was at a loss as to why his DNA covered Amber's body, and he was later convicted of attempting to defeat the ends of justice and breach of the peace. He has since been jailed, rightfully so, for 9 years.
What a sick, disgusting man.
Imagine just that being your first instinct when you come across a dead body is to sexually assault it.
I can't even imagine it because it's so disgusting. What the fuck?
So Lord Mulholland, who kind of oversaw the legal process, said any decent human being on coming across the naked body of a young girl who was unconscious or possibly dead would immediately call the emergency services. You, on the other hand, did not do so. So the judge branded Stephen Corrigan's conduct as despicable, which I absolutely agree. It's just a disgusting side note to this story.
People are so scary.
After she was found, Connor wrote the following on social media. Amber, you will fly high for the rest of time. We will all miss you, especially me. I love you. GBFN. Goodbye for now. Just one day after he made that post, Connor was arrested and charged with Amber's murder. Prosecutors alleged that Connor compressed Amber's neck with his hands and strangled her with the intention to rape her. He also faced further charges of attempting to defeat the ends of justice by disposing of the bloodstains' clothes, and he also called the children's home where his sister lived to pretend that she was alive. He also faces a charge of attempting to pervert the course of justice by telling police he'd even argued with his sister on the evening of November 26 before going to someone's home. So Connor's trial was held last year, 2023, and it ran for 13 days. This is a statement the final statement from the trial. So I'll read it out. It says, it was September 4th, 2023. At the High Court in Livingston today, Lord Mulholland sentenced Connor Gibson to life in prison with a minimum period of 22 years in custody for the sexual assault and murder of Amber. Lord Mulholland told Connor, you have been convicted of the physical and sexual assault and murder of your younger sister Amber Niven, as she liked to be known. Like you, she had not had the best start in life, being fostered and then residing in her children's home. She also had to deal with being raped. She would have looked to you as her big brother for support. She was looking forward to meeting up with you on the night she was murdered, and she even posted a selfie of you on Snapchat. You then walked with her to Cadzow Glen and you beat her around the head, breaking her nose, removed her clothing and sexually assaulted her with the intent to rape, and then manually strangled her to death. The last person she saw alive was you, her brother, strangling the life out of her after having beaten her up and tried to rape her. What you did was truly evil. You then tried to cover your tracks. You lied to the staff of both children's homes. You repeatedly lied to police. You tried to dispose of your bloodstained clothing and you lied and said that you had fallen down. All your lies were exposed by the CCTV and the forensic science who spoke for your sister. The science told the world what you had done. In sentencing you, I take into account your age, your difficult background, and everything that has been said on your behalf, your background report, your lack of criminal record, and of course the circumstances of your appalling crimes, and I hereby sentence you to life imprisonment. So again, I feel like that is a rightful punishment for that crime. What he did was heinous. Someone who trusted him the most, someone who needed him and was very vulnerable, and he took advantage of his own sister, which is even more despicable.
It just makes me sick how horrible and selfish people can be. And for what? That you did this to your sister who has been through so much abuse in her life already, which as someone who had also been through abuse like him, he should know how horrible and tough that is. Why would you put someone through even more abuse, which I guess there's a lot to be said about the cycle of it all and blah blah, but stuff like this, it just makes me so frustrated where it's why do you think it's okay to take someone's life for what? Nothing.
So, following the guilty verdicts, Mr. and Mrs. Niven, who were the foster parents, described Amber as the most giving, caring, loving, supportive, and admirable person. They said she had the most amazing outlook on life considering the suffering she's experienced. And they said, as a family, we all feel this could have been prevented. We now have one daughter buried in the cemetery and another child in prison. We really miss Amber. Life will never be the same. So it's so sad because her life was taken. She was still living in the children's home. She was still a child herself, essentially. She just never even had a chance, really.
No, she was like taken advantage of and had a difficult life for a really long time. And even after her death, still taken advantage of and abused.
So yeah, this does seem to happen fairly frequently. Like I feel like now I'll start paying more attention now that we've started to cover them specifically as a kind of genre of crime. I did find some interesting stats from the Bureau of Justice Statistics. It says family members other than a spouse, son, or daughter accounted for 7.4% of 9,000 murder victims. Among these 671 murders of other family victims, 18% or 119 murders involved a sibling victim. The other 82% were against parents, in-laws, or other family members. So basically, too long, don't listen. 18% of general murders in terms of family are sibling murders, which is, 20%, I guess, almost close. In 2002, which I know is a little bit a fair while ago, but I couldn't find many updated stats, and I still thought this was interesting. It says 72% of murders by siblings involved a brother killing a brother, and 14% involved a brother killing a sister. An additional 14% involved a sister killing a brother or sister. So basically, brother on brother is the most common, and then brother killing sister, and then the next one is basically a sister killing either sibling. So yeah, some interesting stats. I don't know if I thought maybe the number would be a little bit higher in terms of the amount of family murders being sibling murders, which is only 18%. But I guess two siblings are able to kind of separate themselves more. Like once you're grown, you don't need to be around your sibling if you don't want to. I don't know. It's just an interesting stat to think about why that is the number.
I feel like brother killing a brother, not to say like, oh, it's not like as interesting. I feel like it's less shocking because it's like, oh, boys getting in a fight maybe and testosterone, whatever. I feel like brother killing a sister is always kind of shocking because it seems like with brother and like sister and sister, it seems like could be more like jealousy or like competing. Where brother and sister, you feel like they're different, so they don't have as much to be jealous and compete over. But I guess still it could be like attention from your family and stuff like that. But I just feel like those ones are a little more like what would lead to this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll keep an eye out for more of these and for updates with these stories, especially the newer ones. See if we can find anything else out. So make sure you're following us on Instagram for all that True Crime Society. But that's really it for this episode and the cases that we've got for it. So there'll be a blog, and you can check that out at truecrimesocietyblog.com if you want to read more about these cases. And like I said, make sure you're following us on Instagram. That's where we're posting all the updates. And hopefully by the time this episode comes out, we'll have our other account back. Fingers crossed. And if you want to follow our personal accounts, mine is StephSum_, Olivia's TCS Olivia. And not to be like, oh, go follow us, but it is good to follow our accounts if anything does happen to any of our accounts, like our personal accounts, because we could post updates and stuff there. And make sure you follow our backup True Crime Society account just to be safe. It's just True Crime Society backup. And we're on Patreon. Check us out there. If you want more content, we do extra weekly bonus episodes. We do all the episodes ad-free. And we have some chats in there if you want to chat with us some more about whatever. And then just all the usual stuff, rate, subscribe, follow, all that. We've given some big pep talks about that lately, so I won't bore you to death with it. But if you guys can do those things still, it's a big help to us. That's it. So thank you guys for listening. Stay safe out there. Peace out.
Thank you. Bye.
And also, I want to add, sorry if we were scattered-brained. We had a lot going on before we recorded, and we're very riled up. So we did our best. Okay, bye.